Welcome back. Today, we are going to improve your English through a gripping story of survival. We'll follow Pedro on a tropical adventure that turns into a race against time. The best way to master a language is to get lost in a great story. If you enjoy learning English this way, subscribe and join us for a new adventure every week. Now listen carefully. Pay attention to the vocabulary and let's dive into the jungle together. Let's get started. Arrival at the mysterious island. Pedro stood on the deck of the small wooden boat. He felt the gentle movement of the ocean under his feet, enjoying the sight of the beautiful island rising from the sea. The turquoise water sparkled under the bright tropical sun. He rowed toward the white sand beach with a steady rhythm, letting the sounds of the distant jungle fill his curious mind. Suddenly, the boat touched the soft sand of the shore. The noisy city life disappeared completely behind his back, and a deep sense of total silence took over the entire bay. The palm trees were tall and swayed slowly in the wind. The horizon felt like a secret key to the unknown. He stepped onto the warm land and smiled with confidence. Today is going to be a grand adventure, he thought calmly. He adjusted his shirt as he looked at the green forest and walked forward into the heart of the wild island. The mysterious discovery. Pedro walked along the quiet edge of the tropical beach. The sand was soft and left clear prints behind his boots, while the warm breeze carried the scent of exotic flowers. Suddenly, he saw a strange marking on the wet sand. They looked like large footprints leading toward the deep jungle, and his curiosity grew with every single step he took. He looked down and found an old folded piece of paper. It was a hand-drawn map of the island's mountain range, showing a path that climbed toward the highest rocky peak. His hands trembled slightly as he opened the fragile parchment. He realized that he was not the first person here, and a sudden feeling of caution replaced his earlier peace. I need to follow this path carefully, he thought. He kept the map tucked safely inside his pocket and turned toward the dense trees to begin his search. The first warning. Pedro moved through the thick vegetation of the dark jungle. The air became heavy and warm under the giant green leaves, while the colorful birds stopped singing in the high branches. Suddenly, a deep, low rumble echoed through the ground. The earth vibrated beneath his feet for a brief second, and he grabbed a thick branch to keep his balance. He looked around, but everything seemed completely still. The strange noise faded into the distance of the forest, leaving him alone with the sound of his own heartbeat. The atmosphere felt tense and unusually quiet now. He felt a cold shiver run down his tired spine, sensing that the island was hiding something very powerful. What was that strange sound, he thought, with worry. He stepped over a fallen log with great determination and walked deeper into the forest toward the mountain. The Old Explorer. Pedro reached a small clearing hidden by massive ferns. There, an old man sat near a small campfire of dry wood, watching the smoke rise slowly toward the canopy above. The stranger looked at Pedro with tired, knowing eyes. He pointed his finger toward the smoking mountaintop, warning him of the danger that lived within the rocks. "The volcano is waking up," the old man said softly. His voice was raspy, and sounded like dry leaves in the wind, making Pedro realize that his adventure was becoming a test. Pedro looked at the man with a sense of pure surprise. He thought about the map and the strange rumbles earlier, feeling that he had arrived at the most critical moment. "How much time do I have left?" Pedro asked with urgency. The old man shook his head and looked at the sky, telling him to run before the earth started to break. The hot river. Pedro ran toward the edge of a deep, rocky canyon. A river of hot water flowed rapidly through the bottom, releasing thick clouds of white steam into the humid air. A very old wooden bridge crossed over the burning water. It looked fragile and swayed with every gust of hot wind, but it was the only way to reach the other side. He took a deep breath and stepped onto the worn planks. The wood creaked loudly under his heavy, steady boots, and he focused entirely on keeping his balance on the bridge. Suddenly, a piece of the wood broke off and fell. He reached out to grab the rope handrail with strength, feeling the intense heat rising from the river below. "I cannot stop now," he thought with total focus. He moved his feet carefully until he reached the solid rocks, safe on the other side of the dangerous burning stream. The ancient temple. Pedro started to climb the steep slope of the volcano. The ground changed from soft dirt to hard, black rock, and the air became thinner with every meter he gained. He arrived at a wide, flat ledge near the middle path. An ancient temple stood there, built from a solid volcanic stone, decorated with symbols of fire from a long-lost time. The structure looked strong despite the passing of many years. He walked through the tall entrance with a sense of wonder, feeling the history of the island in the cold, dark walls. He looked up at the ceiling and saw natural light entering. The temple was designed to watch the heart of the crater, and he realized this was a place of deep importance. "This place is truly magnificent," he thought to himself. He took one last look at the carved stone statues and continued his climb toward the top of the peak. The eruption begins. Pedro finally reached the highest point of the mountain. He looked down into the massive, wide opening of the crater, where thick gray smoke rose violently into the blue sky. Suddenly, the ground shook with a massive, thunderous roar. A bright flash of orange light glowed deep inside the earth, and the volcano began to erupt with incredible, raw power. Ash started to fall like gray snow over the entire peak. The air became difficult to breathe as the wind shifted, and the temperature rose quickly as the lava started flowing. Pedro felt the ground cracking open beneath his tired feet. He knew he had to leave this place immediately, or he would never make it back to his waiting boat. "I must get back to the beach now," he thought loudly. He turned his back on the beautiful, dangerous volcano and began to run down the mountain with all his strength. The race against time. Pedro ran down the narrow path with desperate speed. Small rocks and hot pieces of ash fell around his head, forcing him to dodge every obstacle in his frantic way. He jumped over wide cracks in the dry volcanic ground, his heart beating fast like a drum inside his chest, while the roar of the mountain followed him like a storm. The jungle below looked like a small green patch of safety. He could see the white beach in the very far distance, and he focused all his energy on reaching that goal. His clothes were covered in gray dust from the volcano. He felt his legs burning with the effort of the sprint, but he refused to stop for even a single second. Just a little bit more, he thought, with pure grit. He leaped over a fallen tree and continued his pace, determined to survive the rage of the waking island. The final push. Pedro reached the sandy shore just as the sun set. The ocean was wild and waves crashed hard against the rocks, making the boat shake violently against the wooden dock. He pushed the heavy boat into the cold, rising water. His muscles ached from the long run down the mountain, but he pushed with his last bit of stored energy. Suddenly, a wave hit the side and pushed him back. He grabbed the edge of the boat with both tired hands and used the power of the water to float away from land. He rowed with everything he had against the strong tide. He did not look back at the fire behind his shoulder, only at the dark, open sea that led to safety. I am almost free, he thought while pulling the oars. The boat finally cleared the shallow, dangerous coral reef, and he drifted into the deep blue water of the ocean. The unforgettable adventure. Pedro sat in the middle of the boat, breathing heavily. He looked back at the island under the dark night sky, watching the bright orange lava flow into the Black Sea. The volcano was in full eruption, lighting up the horizon. The sight was both terrifying and incredibly beautiful to see, a natural force that he would remember for all his life. He let the boat drift slowly into the calm, open ocean. The danger of the day felt like a distant, fading memory, and he felt a deep sense of relief and great accomplishment. A small, tired smile grew across his dusty, happy face. He had faced the mountain and come out as a survivor, feeling stronger than he had ever felt in his life. That was the best adventure ever, he thought with pride. He leaned back against the wooden seat of his boat and watched the stars as he sailed toward the horizon. This is the final part of this video. Thank you for staying until the very end. And don't forget to subscribe for the next adventure.